Greetings from the North Texas Ice Rink. It is Friday, and the Cotton Bowl is tonight. The college football playoff semifinal, Ohio State and Texas at AT&T Stadium. And if it's Friday, and it's the podcast daily, it's Freaky Friday and bold prediction time. It's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Fellas, what do you think about this just glorious weather down here?
It's great. Tropical, warm, dry.
All the things you want?
All the things you want out of a trip to North Texas in January.
I think it's pretty great. It makes it feel like home for the Buckeyes on what otherwise would be like a road trip. Now it feels like a home trip.
Oh.
Because this is home.
Still riding buses a lot.
Yeah, they're still in the bus a lot, but hey, that's okay. Wednesday, the team posted their photo of like at the end, we're getting ready to go to Texas, and there's G. Scott outside in the snow, and Emeka Abuka's first comment was "Winter is coming," and then winter is here, and so it's like I think it's prophetic, poetic, some other.
Had a delightful bus ride ourselves on Thursday down to AT&T Stadium, where I can assure you, the weather inside is great.
They should open the roof.
I disagree.
I don't
actually think they can. I think they tried to open it earlier this season, and like some stuff fell. I think that thing's closed forever.
But got a quick glimpse at a little Texas walkthrough before I was ushered away from the glass panes.
I wasn't over there because I know the rules.
I know the rules,
but
them. You have to test the boundaries.
Ask forgiveness, not permission.
And I didn't apologize for it.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a walkthrough the day before the game. If Texas does something in their Thursday walkthrough at AT&T Stadium that I could learn from and pass on to anyone, then shame on Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
But he didn't. I did see guys who were scout team versions of Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. They did not.
Did they put two guys on top of each other to make scout team Jeremiah Smith?
It was three kids in a trench coat, and it still didn't work. So we're here. It's exciting. It's been great to be down here in Texas, other than the weather so far, but just looking forward to a huge game. Two of the most prestigious programs in not just college football, but in college athletics getting together for a high-stakes matchup. What more can you possibly ask for? How's it going to shake out? Let's start, as we always do, not always, have we recently done, with some game predictions first, just to really set the tune.
I'll set the tune.
Set the tune.
Yeah. I think Ohio State's going to win. My score is 31-17, I think it was. I do think Ohio State's offense will be tested more in this game than it was in the first two. That's not about like the stuff we were talking about the other day, like momentum or regression to the mean. It's just that Texas's defense is good, and their front's very good. Like I think it could give perhaps some problems that maybe Ohio State's not scoring every single time it has the ball, like it seems like it has in these first two playoff games. But on the other side of that, I really do feel like Ohio State's defense is in such a good way right now, and also structurally is just sort of built to handle what Texas wants to do, that I have a pretty hard time seeing Texas score a big enough number to win this game. I think if Texas does win, it's a very low scoring game. I just don't like trust Quinn Ewers all that much. I think Caleb Downs, the way they're using him is really going to throw a wrench into what Texas would like to do. And I love the way that Ohio State's defensive line is playing right now. So there's two very good defensive lines in this game. It's possible maybe that those are the two units that stand out the most. We'll see how that plays out, but it's hard to pick against Ohio State right now with the way they're humming on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and not really much has changed since Monday at Roosters. I said 24-17 Ohio State at that point. I think I'm still in that ballpark. I don't know what the over-under is in this game, but I think
53.
I'm pretty sure that would be under by a significant margin. I think that the defenses are going to both be better than people are anticipating in a game that is highlighting two head coaches that are known for their offensive proclivities. I really think that Ohio State's defense is going to give Texas some problems. I'm actually probably skewing even a little less, like maybe 23-16 type of game. I mean, not that that's a whole lot worse than 24-17, but hey,
just shave it up points.
Just shaving points here.
1 point here and 1 point there.
So give me Ohio State by a touchdown, and the under is what I'm gonna. Just stay there.
Okay, you're living there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna live with a.
That's a cover though.
Cover.
Last I saw was 6.
Yeah,
it was a spread.
Yeah, I think this won't come as a surprise to anybody who's been watching the podcast daily or listening to Snap Judgments in the last week. I don't believe that Texas has the offensive firepower, even in their best form, against most good teams. And Ohio State is better than most teams. It has the best defense in America. So I have a difficult time envisioning Quinn Ewers and that Texas offense even getting back a little bit healthier on their offensive line. I don't think that's going to make any difference to Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton right now. Those guys are on a mission, and the secondary is playing at a really high level, and that's going to create a lot of issues, I think, for Ewers and Steve Sarkisian, who, like, I know the talent of Quinn Ewers, and if he plays his best game, that could be dangerous to Ohio State. And Sarkisian can absolutely dial up ball plays. They were joking about that on Thursday in the final press conference where he's still calling plays, and he said he was going to keep doing that as long as he was pretty decent. And Ryan Day's like, yeah, well, you're more than decent at it. It was a little bit of a love fest from those guys who it goes back to something else you mentioned earlier in the week about familiarity, how we didn't immediately think about Texas. And Ryan Day said that he's done a lot of studying what Sark has done throughout his career with his passing attack. So there are opportunities there. I'm not saying that there's no chance that Texas can win the game, but the way that they've played over the duration of the year, I think they've been less than the sum of their parts in going up against a team with all the momentum and personnel that can match up with them at every single spot or surpass Texas in every spot. Gives me a lot of confidence that Ohio State will win this game, and they are going to do it 34-13.
I just don't think like Texas has played a really sound half of offensive football since like the Michigan game in week 2, at least against a good team. So like,
and that was one half.
Yeah, it was one half, and like it was good. They looked very good in that game, but it's just like they're going to find that form now against Ohio State's defense. I just have a really hard time seeing that.
But also on the flip side of that, their defense, as good as it is, I don't think they've played an offense that has any ability to really challenge them the way Ohio State does, and not just in the passing game, but I mean, even Ohio State's run game. Texas is extremely talented, but they had quite clearly the easiest schedule in the SEC this year.
And they had the easiest path in the playoff by seed,
so
by ranking.
It is interesting that they, even the 2 games against Georgia, who's the best team they played, that was a pretty weak Georgia team this year, and they lost both games. And I do think that that's because Kirby Smart is really, really great at devising things to confuse a quarterback. And
you know who else is good at that?
I heard Jim Knowles is
Jim
good
Knowles.
at it. Yeah. So it's hard to see Texas getting 20 points in this game.
All right. We did pretty well with our bold predictions last week, or at least I did, and Liberty did.
Were there any punts?
We'll have to check the tape.
You set the tone on that one.
I said
he just kind of. We're sitting there in the first quarter. He just kind of threw his pen up in the air.
I predicted that Jeremiah Smith would have his career high in yardage.
Yeah.
I said 3 touchdowns. He could have had 10 if they wanted.
Why didn't they want to?
I don't know. Just to hold off.
Oh. Well, we did pretty well. So let's see if we can duplicate that effort for the Cotton Bowl. Bill, is it a punt prediction, or you got some?
We're staying away. All punts. No, we're staying away from that. I think we'll see a good game from Ohio State's defensive line. I love the way, obviously, that JT, Jack, and Tyleik are all playing together. I do think Jack and JT they're in for a battle with these 2 tackles that Texas has. Oregon had really good tackles too, and Jack and JT kind of had their way with those guys. So I'm not saying they can't do it here, but I do think there could be some opportunity on the interior for Tyleik Williams. The center for Texas got hurt in the first playoff game. I thought watching the Arizona State game, there were some pressures allowed up the middle against the guards that I found perhaps ripe with opportunity for a guy like Tyleik.
Mm-hmm.
So let's call it big game for Tyleik Williams, 2 sacks, 3 pass breakups.
Ooh.
For batting that ball down. He's really good at it.
He hasn't done that quite as much this year as he did a year ago.
Yeah. Last year he led the country in pass breakups, but not so much this year.
Should have won the Thorpe Award last year.
I've been riding the G. Scott train this week, and I'm not getting off the G. Scott train now. I think he's going to.
Now it's just because you want to make him cry.
There was a prop bet, by the way, of like G. Scott 25 or more receiving yards. It was like plus 180, and I'm really mad I can't bet on it here.
People should take that. I'm going to say 6 catches.
Ooh.
For 90 yards and 2 scores.
Oh my!
For G. Scott.
G. Scott game. Okay.
I would like to extrapolate it out to just the tight ends in general, but I'm going to narrow in on G because I really think that he has the ability to stretch the field in a way that Ohio State really hasn't done a lot of this year at the tight end position. It's been more of your safety valve, and that's what Will Howard uses it as, which is smart when you have the receivers Ohio State does. But the way that Texas attacks the passing game for Ohio State is a soft zone and making sure the Buckeyes can't get behind him. I think that's going to really open up the middle of the field for G. I think Anthony Hill is a really great middle linebacker for Texas, but Still have a tough time seeing him covering G. Scott one-on-one in those scenarios. And I think Texas is going to do a lot of blitzing with the linebackers. And if they do that, that's going to open up the middle of the field even more for Will Howard and G. Scott. So I think it's a G game.
I can sense what Bill is doing behind my right shoulder, and I bet that would obliterate G. Scott's single game career high.
Oh, that's actually not what I was looking up, but I'm sure that it would. Yeah,
what are you looking at?
That's for my next bowl, P.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have stolen that information. I think, have I mentioned how much fun it is to watch Travion Henderson in this final form that he's become? Like, he is a wrecking ball, and I thought that he would get more involved in the passing attack last week. It didn't quite happen, and maybe there would have been more if Ohio State had to actually run its offense for 4 quarters, which it didn't need to. I do think this is another game that Travion is going over 100 yards. I think it'll be more like 140 total yards. Not going to break down the number of receptions because he may only need 1 or 2 screens to really pop something loose. And that 66-yard touchdown run was just a sight to behold. I think if he had been doing that and been healthier earlier in his career, he wouldn't have played a 4th season at Ohio State. That was what we expected when the Buckeyes landed him out of Virginia and had really a great freshman year before some of the things, bumps and bruises and just the reckless abandon that he has always played with sort of caught up with him a little bit. He's not holding anything back. I think Carlos Lachlan I'm going to give him some credit for that. It's not that I think Tony Alford was a really good position coach as well, but there's some of the different ways I think that they are instructing the running backs and the ball security drills and the vision that Travion is playing with right now is different from the previous 3 years. Bill, I know that you had some conversations with the coaching staff, I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
About, just Travion not quite trusting it, not quite seeing it, following the blocks, letting plays materialize. It's patience, it's vision at a level that he's not shown previously. It is all coming together at just the right time. And Quinshon's very good too. This is not to take away from him, but I think Travion has really benefited from the tandem in a way that I think suits him more than Quinshon.
I don't know that I've seen many running backs run faster than he was running on that touchdown. He was flying.
Looked like a track star.
He did. He sure did. And I think he's helped by the change in run scheme the last couple of weeks too, because I think where Travion can get himself into trouble sometimes is on those zone schemes where it's on the running back to kind of figure out where it goes rather than the gap schemes where it's like you're going here. And he's when he does, vision is the thing that I think he is inconsistent with at times. But when he's right and he goes to the right place and he can get to that second level, it's usually curtains for the defense. So he looks awesome. I like the way that Quinshon looked against Oregon.
Yeah.
Quinshon Judkins has not had a 100-yard rushing game since the Marshall game.
And he had like an 86-yard touchdown.
Yeah. I think he's going to go over 100 in this game. And maybe I'll just leave it at that. I thought that this was the freshest he's looked, the most dangerous he's looked. He just had like a burst about him that I think has been lacking for a couple of weeks. I don't know if he was getting healthy or trying to knock some rust off or perhaps even pressing a little bit prior to that. But what we saw against Oregon was what I was envisioning for Quinshon all year. And we saw it in fits and starts, but not consistently. I think that game that we just saw will be a springboard to something even better here against Texas. I don't know how much Ohio State will run the ball. Maybe Quinshon can get 100 yards on something like 9 carries. But I do think he will go over the century mark for the first time since September.
Well, the way that Texas defends you, that is the way to beat them. And we watched as Arizona State and what Cam Scatabo did. If you watch the Georgia games, Georgia was able to control the game, not by throwing the ball, but by just clock management and making sure that they picked up first downs when they needed it. And that twosome of Quinshon and Travion is just exceptionally important to get going early on Friday night.
What if we're both right?
Why aren't you?
We need to pick a higher score.
With all the conversation that we have rightfully and justifiably about Caleb Downs, I think sometimes Jordan Hancock gets forgotten about. And you talked about him, I think 2-3 weeks ago, Bill, about how the evolution of this defense of maybe dropping him more into like your third safety look where now you can pretty much do whatever you want on either side of the ball for Ohio State on both sides of the field because Jordan is so good back there. I think that you're going to see Texas try and avoid throwing the bubble screens and that kind of stuff to Caleb's side because he's such a game wrecker in respect. But I think this is a Jordan Hancock game. And I think he's going to have an interception and maybe a forced fumble as well. I'm kind of leaning in that direction because Texas is going to take their shots, but their passing game is still predicated on getting the ball out quick and getting the ball in space to their playmakers like Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond. So I think Ohio State's defensive backs tackle really, really well.
They do. And
Jordan doesn't get the credit that Lathan gets or that Caleb gets because they're just game wreckers all the time. But I think this is a Jordan Hancock game, so give me 2 turnovers caused by Jordan Hancock.
It's interesting how little acclaim Jordan Hancock is getting. A year ago, it felt like in November, it's like every big game is like, well, Jordan Hancock is showing up, or he made the play a while back against Rutgers that flipped that one on its head. And it's like he was built to play this nickel spot. This is the perfect weapon for Jim Knowles, and it's kind of like he has become taken for granted a little bit, at least outside, not inside the program by any stretch of the imagination. He is really critical for this.
I asked Jim Knowles on Wednesday night at the press availability, like, is this the defense he imagined when he took over at Ohio State, knowing that the players you'd have at your disposal? And at the risk of simplifying, he said, absolutely it is, because he's got all these guys that can play so many different spots and play so many different styles of football, which is rare. Like, yeah, you got veterans and they've played a lot, but they can be just as effective in the run game as they are in the pass game. You don't have to change these guys out, which is really special and makes it difficult for a defense or for an offense to know what's coming when the same guys can run all of different sets and can run all different concepts. So, but Jordan is overlooked because you have the ultimate eraser in Caleb Downs who fixes things. He's like the Jeremiah Smith of the defense, where it's like, well, screw it, Jeremiah's down there, just throw it. So sometimes Caleb is like, well, Caleb's over there, it'll just fix itself. But Jordan certainly doesn't get that acclaim, and he certainly should, in my mind.
But you say it's a Jordan Hancock defensive game. It's a big game, right?
Yeah.
Some would say.
Ohio State needs its linebackers to play well.
Mm-hmm.
Always do.
Big
game, Cody.
It's a big game, Cody. Maybe it's not bold because at this point it's become a bit of a long-term trend. The sample size is large enough, yes, that's right, that he's going to have double-digit tackles because it's a big game. And he's going to make somebody hurt with a huge hit. And he's going to probably make a sack or two. So I need to put it all together if it's going to be bold. And that means that Cody Simon is going to have 16 tackles in this game. He is going to have 3 sacks. He is going to force a fumble. And he's going to drop an interception and have 2 passes broken up.
Are you then leaning towards, obviously you predicted Ohio State to win. Cody has that game. He's clearly the MVP on the defense.
I think he's going to get the defensive MVP in the entire postseason.
Every game.
I said this in the middle of the year. I couldn't understand, and at the time he maybe didn't have a great statistical case. Like when the idiots who
he has 7 sacks now. Like they didn't have.
If they were voting, for the butt kiss right now, Cody Simon would be a finalist. He may not win.
In the mix.
He would absolutely be in the mix, and I think it is just for somebody like that. Again, it doesn't matter to him. He's wearing the Block O. He's the leader. He's playing to win a national championship and not an individual award. I think he is the perfect example of a guy being just absolutely screwed by the ludicrous way that college football awards are handled.
It's interesting, Cody. We were walking to the press conference last night, and I looked over at him. I was like, did you get taller in the last week? Because I thought he was like sick.
You might have shrunk.
And that's what I'm afraid of, actually.
Because he said the same thing to Julian Sam last week.
Yeah, but Julian's, a baby. He's still growing. Cody's done growing. And I looked at him, and then Tom Orr walked by from Buckeye Huddle, and Tom's like 6'2", and Cody's taller than him. I'm like, since when did you become 6'3"? He's like, can you tell NFL scouts that, please? Because he's like, I don't think people realize it. When you look at his body of work and the athleticism he has, the testing numbers, the size, the person he is, it's shocking to me he's not someone that gets more run nationally. It's probably because he's not a big talker and a big gloating guy on the field, but man, that dude is super, super impressive and important.
He's going to interview incredibly well. He's going to test incredibly well.
He's going to interview well enough they're going to hire him to be a GM, not to play.
Just skip the playing.
Sorry, we can't waste you on the field. We need you in the front office, and you're the next president. And by the way, you're going straight to the Oval Office.
Yeah, we got problems in California.
Can you
fix it, Cody?
Can you fix it, Cody? What would you do? And again, I can't shake this notion. And Adam King's not here this week, and we all miss him dearly. But it's like going into the year,
all of us.
it was this perception, and he has owned up to it. It's like, Cody's just that. He's the glue guy. He's not going to do anything spectacular. He's he's average linebacker, but his value goes beyond that to what he does off the field. No, he is a hell of a linebacker that does not get enough acclaim for the athleticism, the intelligence, the knowledge of the scheme, the communication. He does everything you could possibly want. When we talk about the quarterback on offense with Will Howard and doing everything that the Buckeyes ask of him, Cody Simon is doing that times 10 for the best defense in America. I know that Caleb Downs is a freak of nature and a superstar. I know that Lathan Ransom putting next to him is incredibly important. You have great corners, and the defensive line is playing at an incredibly high level, and Sonny Styles is also an alien. But this defense would not be anywhere near as good as it is without Cody Simon, period.
Agreed.
Ryan Day said it on Thursday, like, he does everything right, is what he said about Cody Simon. And that is not just coach speak. The kid is the perfect example of what you want in your program.
Yeah, so we're
going to miss you, Cody.
That'll be my second bold prediction. Now it's time for Liberty's bold prediction.
That time is here once again. Future Fan Sports bold predictor Liberty Ward is in the house, riding high after not one but two correct predictions in the Rose Bowl. What did you think about that game?
It was pretty wild.
Pretty wild? You feel good about your Jeremiah Smith prediction? 2 touchdowns in that one?
Yeah.
All right, so another opportunity. It's been awesome for us. It's been 10 years since Ohio State won a national championship. So these kind of memories that we're making as a family could be once in a decade. And the best way to enjoy that is with this box down here. You got your feet on it, girl. Future Fans football box, which has helped the Ward family get a different level of appreciation and understanding and enjoyment out of this year. So another opportunity to come and another opportunity to use that code. The Buckeyes are still alive. So that code is
Buckeye.
And now you can get 15% off the Future Fans box through Saturday, which would be the 11th, 2 games after the Cotton Bowl, which is Friday night. One of the last opportunities you're going to have to grab this at the discounted rate, thanks to our friends at Future Fans Sports, futurefans.com/OSU. That is futurefans.com/OSU, and use the code. What's the code?
Buckeye.
Buckeye. You get 15% off. All right. What's cooked up? What's the bold prediction for Friday night in the Cotton Bowl against Texas?
Well, you usually do this in some of your other podcasts, but I would like to know, what's your prediction for the game?
My prediction for the game?
Yes.
Well, I've made a couple already on this show, but I'll say this. I think Will Howard is going to throw for 325 yards in this game. It's a lot of yardage.
Well, I haven't learned about yards yet, but that's pretty good.
Okay. What do you got for touchdowns?
Well, I have for touchdowns is Jeremiah to Will Howard, 2 touchdowns, 1 running, and the other just a normal touchdown.
Okay.
And then a Mecca 1.
Oh, okay. Some of your favorites right there. And who's going to win the Cotton Bowl?
That's obvious. Ohio State. And there's one more prediction I forgot to get. Is Caleb Down gets an interception.
Oh my. Listen to all those bold predictions. You are really feeling yourself on these. All right. Future Fans is working with this current fan. Make sure you use the code. What is it again?
Buckeye.
Get 15% off at futurefans.com/OSU. Now back to Bill Landis.
Can't believe my third bold prediction was stolen.
Sorry.
Remotely.
She made me do it. She'd never done that before. You can.
How pissed off does Will have to be? His career high is 327 yards, right?
No, I think it's 324 against Texas, and I was going to go one better for a new career high.
In the last 2 games, he had like 290 yards at halftime in both of them, and didn't surpass it.
All right, 400 yards for Will Howard. How about that? I'm not changing my mind. I'm just going to add to the total.
Okay.
I
put a little spice in the pepper.
Put a little spice on it. Berm said it. Texas wants to play a lot of zone, keep a lot of things in front of them. They have not given up a lot of explosive passing plays, but they've also not seen Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka and a quarterback who is throwing the ball the way that Will Howard is right now. I think like they played Florida, which has a good passing offense statistically, but also like a walk-on played quarterback for them that game. Cade Klubnik threw it on them pretty well. Even last week, Arizona State almost had 300 yards and it was double overtime, but they still threw it fairly well too. I just don't.
Without receivers to speak.
I'm caught in a weird spot where like I watch Texas's defense and like I see the individual talent and it's clearly very good. They're very fast. They're very big. But then you look at the statistical profile and ask yourself like how much of it is real. And I guess you could say that about a lot of really good defenses, but at least with Ohio State, we just saw them shut down the team that probably has the second best offense in this entire playoff last week in the Rose Bowl. And I don't know that we've seen Texas do that to a really good offense. So I don't think I'm anticipating it in this game. So I think they're going to run it okay because I have Quinshawn going for 100. But I think Will have the best game we've seen for him. I think it means a lot to him.
It does, yeah.
To beat Texas. He never did it when he was at Kansas State. He played a very good game against them last year and nearly beat them in Austin. I think that will fuel him on top of everything else is fueling him in this playoff. And we'll see. We've seen the best of him in these last two games. I think he will continue to be that and then set a new career high passing.
And there's another game, if you really go back and watch Texas in the playoff a year ago against Washington, that is actually really instructive to, I think, how they would try to defend Ohio State and the Ohio State receivers, because Washington, with Michael Penix and Jalen McMillan and Polk and Rome Odunes were like, you watch those guys and they tore Texas apart.
Yeah, it's a different secondary,
and
but it's the same defensive structure.
Same defensive structure. Washington's offensive line was good, but not great. Mm-hmm. Washington had no real run threat to speak of at that point. So I think that there's an opportunity for Ohio State to have a 500-plus yard offensive day, which maybe in the litany of Ryan Day games over the careers, like 500 is not that big a deal. But this season, they've only done 500 yards, I think, like 3 times. So it would be...
Because they're not trying to.
Right.
They're just wild.
They don't care.
It's just, isn't that silly?
It's so weird.
It's just silly.
My final bold P is that Jeremiah Smith will have 1 catch only in this game. Yeah. 1 catch.
I mean, you're low on your score total, so
I think Texas is going to do a lot of things to try and keep him from beating them in this game. Now, that does...
I bet he's wrong on the first drive.
I'd love to be.
Drill down on that bowl.
Yeah. I think Texas is going to come out and they're going to bracket him.
You saw what Chip Kelly did with Jeremiah Smith last week, right?
I understand what you're saying.
If they're bracketing him?
Yeah, you move him around, I get it. We can go slot Marv, I get it. Okay, there's things you can do. But I really feel
slot him up.
I feel like this is a Carnell Tate, Emeka Ibuka, G. Scott special. And I think Jeremiah, part of the development of becoming like a global superstar, worldwide phenomenon, Mr. Worldwide, is understanding that occasionally you are the decoy. And I think this is a decoy week for Jeremiah Smith.
Pitbull should be the decoy on all of his tracks.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
I mean, Jeremiah's going to impact the game in other ways. There's end arounds, there's stuff like that to get him the ball. But I just think as far as what we...
Well, are they going to do that? You said, how many touches is he going to have?
Like 4 or 5.
Okay.
4 or 5 touches, but 1 catch.
Yeah.
That's pretty bold.
It'll be an interesting game.
I think you can get him the ball in other ways, and you got to move him around because Texas is going to try to bracket him pretty aggressively.
Okay.
I would if I was them.
Well,
because otherwise you lose.
This wasn't going to be my third bowl prediction, but now it is. Jeremiah Smith is going to have 10 catches.
Baited him right into it.
For 180 yards and 2 more touchdowns. The guy is ridiculous, insane. Never seen anything like it. There's not a scheme that Texas can come up with that will stop Jeremiah Smith or will dissuade Will Howard, Chip Kelly, and Ryan Day from throwing in the football. And the stuff that we saw right out the gate, the play that they ran to him was the one that Bill and I talked about like 100 times in training camp.
That's 1,000.
Yeah, it's 1,000 times. Or 10 hundreds if you want, it depends on how they give you your bills, your dollar bills.
I prefer $1,000 bill.
Oh, I like to have 10 of them. It makes me feel rich. That's how I won casino night on Wednesday. Short throws, behind the line of scrimmage, even misdirection. Like, if that's how Texas wants to play, you cannot scheme the ball out of Jeremiah Smith's hands in this game. Like, that's what happened against Michigan. Ohio State will never let that happen again. I firmly believe that.
I 100% agree that should be what happens. But I think that there's confidence enough in what you have with the other guys that you don't need to do that right here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's all.
All right.
It's been a fun episode of Bold Predictions.
Ending on a high note.
Podcast Daily.
Because we are recording.
Yeah, we hope everyone makes it to town. If you're still on your way, your travel Thursday probably got screwed up. Maybe you get in early Friday morning. Drive safe. Still going to be icy out there. We're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
We're heading to the stadium at what time? 3 o'clock Eastern time. So we'll have pregame keys probably by 5 o'clock Eastern time.
I think last year we tried to do it when the internet was kind of spotty. I think we looked like we were filming it with a potato. So
Well, we won't go live.
We won't go live.
Okay.
Because you can't trust. For a stadium named after
A fiber optics
and communications network, shockingly bad Wi-Fi at the media hotel and the stadium. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Sure doesn't.
But I'm a Verizon customer, so I don't care. Game tonight. Can't wait. 7:30 Eastern kickoff. They haven't said that it's going to be a bunch of pushing back of kickoff with festivities and stuff. So, be glued to the screen, and we'll be glued to our coverage as always on the podcast. Thanks for joining us for the Podcast Daily, Freaky Friday, bold prediction style. Enjoy the game tonight, folks. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. We'll talk to you there.